Welcome, class, to the overview of the course lecture. We're going to be talking about the syllabus in this lecture, so you might want to print it or have it available to look at periodically throughout the lecture. At the top of the syllabus, you can see my contact information, my office number. I respond very quickly to email, probably more than phone calls. So my email is nhalbrenner@mercy.edu. I don't have scheduled office hours, but I'll be happy to meet with you at a mutually agreeable time. Just email me. We can phone call, we can Skype, or we can meet in person. This is a totally online class. If you're having technical difficulties, there's really going to break out into two different kinds of difficulties. If you're having difficulties with Blackboard, you can email mercyonline@mercy.edu. But if you're having computer trouble, maybe you think your browser is not suited to the course activities, for example, you can call the phone number shown here or email the help desk. There's a lot of help, and they're generally pretty good about getting back to you and helping. So that's what you do if you run into technical difficulties. I will also say it's a good idea to plan not to submit everything at the last minute, because let's say you have an assignment that's due at midnight and you're submitting at 11:55 and your computer crashes. That's not going to be good. So try not to push everything until the very last minute. So you see before you some policies in the course. The course is a little unusual in that I allow certain revision policies and late work. It's very important to realize that most of the assignments in the class, with a couple of ones that I'll talk about, may be submitted up to a week late with a 10% point penalty. Discussion board postings are an exception to that. They can't be submitted late. And a couple of ones at the end of the class can't be submitted late, but most of them, especially the modular assignments, can be submitted late except for the discussion postings. Also, if you don't like your grade, you get one shot to revise and repost on most of the assignments. Again, not discussion boards. But let's say we have an assignment this week where you have to classify certain types of assessment. If you get a poor grade on that, correct it, send it back to me one time, and the higher grade will apply. Another thing to remember is that after August 6th, because of grading constraints, late work will no longer be accepted. It's important to know that all papers must be typed using Microsoft Word, not Google Docs, not PDF, and this is for a couple of different reasons. First of all, I have to grade them, so I have to be able to edit them. It's harder with PDFs. And second of all, Word is kind of the industry standard, and you need to know how to use Word. I put a link to a place you can purchase Word for $59.99 on the course site. If you're not able to purchase Word, Word is always available in all of our Mercy computer labs. You're going to upload all papers through Blackboard. I don't accept papers through email. If you email me, I'll say please submit it through Blackboard. All papers need to be in APA format. There's a link that I put here and on the course page in case you don't understand APA very well. So you can look things up, how to write numbers, for example, how to format papers. There's the revision of assignments one time up to a week after the assignment is graded. You have one shot to change your grade. There are 11 student learning outcomes in this course, all the way from understanding how assessments can be used to support instructional activity, using concepts of reliability and validity, and all of the rest of these. These are things you should be able to know and do at the conclusion of the course. Here's the required textbook for the course, Macmillan 2017, Classroom Assessments, Principles and Practices for Effective Standards-Based Education. You can order this from Amazon or through the Mercy College bookstore. Please order this exact edition because we will be using questions and case studies from the edition. Next week, I'm going to ask you to email me either proof of purchase of the textbook or a picture of yourself with your textbook. You have 5 major assignments in the class. The first is the learning modules, which count for a total of 30 points, and then an Edtpa formative assessment project, which counts for 15 points, quiz project, which counts for 15 points, a rubric project, which counts for 15 points, and a fieldwork project, which counts for 25 points. That comes up to a total of 100. I should also say, in addition to these assignments, there's an optional extra credit vocabulary assignment that I'll talk about, which can add a total of 3 points to your grade. The grading scale is included here, so you can see what each numerical grade corresponds to in terms of a letter grade. So for example, if you get a 94, you get an A in the course. So we're going to talk about each major assignment briefly, and we'll be going over most of these in much more detail as the course moves along. But for right now, I just want to provide an overview. Each week, you're going to open a learning module folder on the course materials page. Most modules count for 3 course points, and there are 10 weeks in this semester, so 3 times 10 is 30 points. I should say that this is a little bit accelerated from the usual 15 weeks of the fall and the spring, so you're going to be asked to do a little more work in each course module. You might do a series of activities, and discussion board post is usually included, but it all starts by opening up the README file at the top of the learning module, and then simply working down each activity until you complete and submit all the activities in the module by Sunday night at midnight. Each week there'll be a discussion board. The discussion works a little differently in my class in that you're actually going to post 3 times. The first is when you post your response to some questions, usually after you complete the readings and lecture. The reaction to a colleague, I don't require a lot of reactions. I require one meaningful reaction, so it has to be more than just good job. But then the thing that's unusual is that after the learning module is completed, by Monday evening, the day after everything is due, I require that you loop back and comment on my post to you, which I almost always post a question, and your colleagues who have also, even if you just say thank you for your feedback. Small point deduction may be deducted if you don't do so. We'll talk about that more next week. Again, no discussion board posts will be accepted late. The second assignment is your Edtpa formative assessment project coming up in a few weeks, so we're going to get started on that pretty quickly. This is going to be asking you to analyze some student scores in mathematics. Quiz creation project worth 15 points. July 21st is the due date. And this is where you write learning targets and a quiz for those learning targets. Rubric creation project due July 28th worth 15 points. This is where you create a performance task, which will mean more to you later, and design a rubric to evaluate it. And finally, the fieldwork paper worth 25 points is based on 10 hours of fieldwork where you go in and observe in a classroom for 3 to 4 hours and then write a 4 to 6 page paper summarizing your observation. It's important in this assignment to keep the focus on assessment and not the learning activities, and we'll be talking about that more later in the course. I mentioned an extra credit vocabulary project, which is up to 3 points on your total course grade. So if your average comes to an 88, that's a B+. If you do the vocabulary project, you could add 91, and you'd wind up with an A- in the course. This is completely optional, and it's due August 4th. Each week, if you look in the syllabus, you're going to see vocabulary. I'll also try to post it in the learning README file. It's important for 2 reasons that you focus on this vocabulary, because it helps you learn common terminology used in education, and it familiarizes you with terms you need to know for your certification tests especially the Edtpa. So there's a vocabulary template in the assignment folder on the course materials page. Look in that and you will see it's basically a table that asks you to type the vocabulary word, give a definition of it, and use it in a sentence. And if you do that for all the vocabulary words and submit it by August 4th, then that will be counted as extra credit. The syllabus contains a course calendar. This is the timetable of when things are due. So for example, you can see we're in week 1. This learning modules is due Sunday, June 2nd. And the topic is Introduction to the Course and Introduction to Assessment. If you look at the bullets, you can see some of the things we're talking about this week in the module. The vocabulary that I mentioned before is here. So this is where you would look to find the extra credit vocabulary in the syllabus. And the course syllabus is, of course, as you found, located on the syllabus link in the course Blackboard site. And then the readings and assignments that are due, you can see you're to read Macmillan Chapter 1. I've scanned that and put it up on the website, and complete Learning Module 1 by June 2nd. So that's how you read this timetable. Some useful websites that you could check out. And of course, our Interstate New Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium, or INTESC standards. Just like you have standards for K-12 students, professors who prepare future teachers have standards, and they're called INTESC. And these are the things that we're trying to prepare you for when you go out in the classroom. So for this week, make sure you've completed all the activities in the README file from week 1. There's a checklist at the bottom of the README file. It looks like this little graphic on the bottom of the slide. You should refer to the checklist at the bottom of the file, and this is all due on Sunday, June 2nd. So if you have any questions, the best way to reach me is to email me at that address or through the course message system, although I generally tend to check the mercy.edu address more frequently, so you're more likely to get a more prompt response if you use that one. And everybody have a nice week.